see you guys in the dark.
So the story starts in the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. I was roughly 14 to 15 at the time. I was also involved in my school's band program. We were a relatively small school in a rural community, so all the band kids were very good friends. Well, being a pretty poor place, we had our fair share of people below the poverty line, or thereabouts. Edgelord had arrived at our school roughly 3 years prior, my 6th grade year to be exact. He stayed for about 2 years. It was notorious for dating younger girls. This includes myself. We dated for about 1 month before I decided he was extremely creepy. He moved away shortly thereafter, and then came back again my freshman year. When Edgelord came back, he seemed to be less creepy, and got a lot of female attention despite never using contractions. Saying really edgy stuff all the time, and occasionally wearing a fedora. He was tall, extremely hairy, and sweaty, yet still unable to grow a real beard. Classic neckbeard traits, other than he did shower and wear deodorant. The worst physical thing was the sheer amount of Axe body spray. I'm allergic, and being near him literally made my face swell up and get incredibly itchy. Now, he didn't have the best family life, and by this point, my freshman-sophomore summer, he had already dropped out, but would have been a senior. He was 18 at this time, but we were still friends. Well, my mother ended up asking him to do yard work for us that summer. He seemed nice enough, and was my friend, so she gave him a key. I figured this out because he intentionally startled me by walking in the door with an axe over his shoulder. He thought scaring me was hilarious, I guess. He started getting more and more attached to me at this point, telling me of this not-so-great home life, his personal struggles, and his wish to find a good girl to date. He began to ask me to hang out all the time, and started sending me good morning beautiful texts, buying me things, and forcing me to eat whatever snacks he would buy me from his hands. Overall, he was a very overwhelming, especially to the introverted and mentally ill 14-year-old that I was. About the end of the summer, he shows up one day to talk to my mom. He tells her he's found himself homeless. His roommates kicked him out. His mother won't let him stay with her, and he has nowhere to go. Mom asked me if I would feel comfortable letting him stay, and my pushover self said that it was fine, as did the other members of the household. He agrees to do yard work and chores, buy his own snacks. Mom would, of course, cook dinner for him, but other than that, live in our spare room rent-free. He begins to obsess over me. He would walk into my room, see my dirty underwear in the dirty clothes basket, and tell me how cute my panties were. He also decided to ask me, in my bathing suit, to cook for him. He said to me, developing quite nicely. I was so uncomfortable. He would not let me get a moment alone. He would be waiting for me when I came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, just standing in the hallway, staring at the door, and waiting. He would follow me on my way after school. He would insist on hanging out from the time I got home from school until I had to go to sleep. He got so angry when I got a boyfriend, and would constantly inquire about my virginity. He even stole my personal vent journal while I was at school. Cut to December. It's so bad that I'm never at home, but he blows up my phone constantly. If I'm with my friends at school, anywhere, I would sometimes on weekends wake up to over 700 messages from him, because he wanted to spend time with me alone before anyone else would wake up. He tried to pick the lock to my bedroom door when he thought I was in there alone. Thank God my brother was there. He even insisted on coming with my mother and I to see our family out of state for the holidays. While there, he wouldn't leave me alone either. We went on an outing to the mall, where he dragged me to the sex toy section of Spencer's. I was 15 by then, and he was 19. I was uncomfortable when he suggested going, and despite physical and verbal protests from me, he grabbed my arm and dragged me in there as I was struggling to get his hand off my wrist. He was over 6 foot tall and about 250 pounds, and I was a measly 5'4" and about 110 pounds. Later on, he actually bought me a vibrator without my knowledge or consent. Another horror story was the following June. I had greatly wanted to go to Pride, as I had just come out as bisexual. Edgelord was so obsessed with me that at this point he had begun to be me. He would intentionally go through my Spotify to like all the exact same music, with like all the same niches, all the same styles. It was creepy and actually really pissed me off. Anyway, when he heard me come out, he also decided he liked men as well as women, which was odd considering he had claimed to find men disgusting not even a month prior to this. Well, when Pride rolled around, I was super geared up, as was he. Unfortunately, however, I couldn't go due to some other things happening, so he went instead. I ended up sleeping over that night with my best friend, and when I came back, he left a pair of mannequin legs in my bed as a present. Speaking of pride and bisexuality, he also attempted to blackmail my closest gay uncle. My uncle is a wealthy gentleman, but is also very generous, and bought him a lot of very nice things, such as a custom tailored suit. Edgelord then told my uncle that he would sleep with him if he paid him $1,000. It went on like that with so many more awful things, and we definitely got sick of him. He was so annoying, clingy, and always thought that he was right. My brothers and I made fun of him so much he stopped wanting to be around us. My mother would refuse conversations with him. My brother got him a job, a car, a license, and a GED, and he was entirely ungrateful and would only complain about it. He refused to do chores and dishes, which he agreed to do because rent-free, until my mom kicked him out. He remained obsessed with me until shortly after I graduated high school. He has since moved many, many states away, and I hope to never see him again, especially seeing as how he likes to masquerade as a really nice person, moves in with me, possibly other people, and proceeds to do a number of things that have incredibly rapey vibes, including picking a lock to my bedroom door when he thought I was alone, forcing me to look at sex toys, buys a vibrator for me without my knowledge. He moves out and far away. I'm now very happy that he has, especially since he is now out of my life. Excuse me if I'm being kind of rude on this, but I'm pissed. I've been on some websites, I do not remember where it was, and I see something that says incel. I don't remember the post, but it did say Stacy sucking Chad's end dick. So of course I was kind of upset. I didn't really know what an incel was, but I knew it was something sexist. Naturally, I asked in the comments. I got a DM a couple of minutes later. It's from this dude, and this fucktard who made the post. He tells me what he thinks an incel is. An incel is a person who girls think that are ugly and small. They would rather grind Chad's D than actually nice guys. Oh, thanks, I replied. Somehow we kept talking. He would say things, and I'd have questions. He kept posting and got blocked from the website, so he would make more and more accounts. Something you might need to know about me. I don't like upsetting people, so I won't. So he keeps texting me from these new accounts. I listened to him try to prove his dumbass and wrong points. I just listened and sometimes asked questions. Sometimes, very rarely, we chatted about things. This happened twice. I would constantly say that it's not all about sex for some women. I made sure he knew I was one of those people. He asked me if I ever dated someone who wasn't a Chad and was a ugly duckling. His words, not mine. In fact, I have, so I said so. He said my friends probably told me to break up with him and say that I was pretty enough to hook up with Chad. I said, my friend did tell me that. He then replies, did you break up with him and fuck Chad? No, I did not. Did I even say that I did? He asked me if I broke up with him. No, I did not. He broke up with me. This has made me so freaking mad. I built up the courage just to block his accounts and ignore him. Fucking neckbeards. Disgusting. I was thinking back to high school, how I, when I was 17, had to deal with an annoying 19-year-old male neckbeard at my class every day. I have a few stories about him, but I'll just give you guys the one that disturbed me the most. So, for visual aid, this was a young adult who had been in high school for a few years, that acted like a child, annoyed everything that moved, never showered, thought he was a wolf, and smelled like piss all the time. Had a classic neckbeard and anime obsession. You know him. I was sitting in the first chair of my class as I used to, after break was over, waiting for the next teacher to come in, when I feel this presence lurking behind me. It's the neckbeard, with a phone pointed at me, and this creepy look on his face. I confronted him about it as politely as I can, to which he answers with, "Oh, I was just taking a picture of you." What? But it gets worse. When I ask him why, he chuckles and goes, "Oh, nothing, and don't worry, I'll erase it later." Whatever he did to that picture, I didn't want to know, as I still don't want to know. So I just went to sit with my friends at the back of the class, hoping that this dude doesn't bother me again. I just started my first job. It's a fry cook job at a fast food chain in America. My first few days started off fantastic until I met my male manager. At first, he seemed pretty nice. Better than any female manager that I've had before. He laughed and joked around with me, and the other employees. Generally made me feel pretty comfortable at a new place. A few hours after meeting him, and shit subsequently hit the fan. I should probably describe what this guy looks like first. He's tall and greasy, fat, has glasses. He's kind of pimply, grayish black buzz cut, glasses, you know. He looks like a total neckbeard. He also talks like Renee from Storage Wars. Okay, so I'm getting off topic again, but I digress. This manager is a creepy dude. My first shift with him started off well, like I said, but after the main manager left, he started up. It started off innocent enough. He asked if I liked mini golf. I wanted to be polite, and I told him yes. Then he proceeds to ask me to go mini golfing with him like 4 times. I'm a minor, and I told him I don't think that my parents would be very comfortable with that. His response was, "We can just tell them that Sarah, the female manager, is coming too." I brushed this off because maybe the guy's just lonely. No biggie. That day, another woman, Hannah, was training me. She's about 50 and very sweet. I was making the sandwiches pretty quickly, and she was excited about that. She said that I was doing a great job, and that she hoped that I stayed around for a while because I was making her day brighter. Then the manager came around and says, "I hope that you stay too. We need more cute girls around here." I quickly excused myself to go to the bathroom to text my boyfriend about what was happening. Within 5 minutes, he was at that store. He asked to speak with a manager and explained to them that one of my friends, me, was being treated inappropriately by a male manager. The creeper then comes back where all of us are standing and talking and begins to flip shit. He goes into full-on rage mode, saying shit like, "If anyone thinks that I'm trying to steal their fucking girlfriend, I have a fiancé," and then starts showing us pictures of some girl who is clearly not his fiancé. I clocked out and went home. I wasn't too scared since my boyfriend made sure that they knew someone was having a problem. I figured if anything happened, I could tell him, and he would just solve it. The next day I went into work. Same boring crap. Creepy manager showed up halfway through it. It got slow, and we were all bullshitting again. He came into the back and joined our conversation. I was talking about my boyfriend with Hannah, and she was laughing, calling me cute for blushing when I was talking about him. The manager then says, "You should really smile more. It makes you look even cuter than you usually are. You look so innocent." I walked into the back to get my phone. I come back, and the manager is just standing there. "So, how old are you?" Stupid me answers, "I'm 17, but I'll be 18 in like a month. I hope you're still here in a month. We can go out and do something for your birthday." At this point, I tried to walk away. Now he was blocking my path. Luckily, Hannah called me, and he moved. That entire day, I could feel his beady eyes staring directly at me. I went outside with another coworker so that he would have a smoke break, and I could get away from that creep. He walked over with his phone. On the screen was a picture of an Asian porn star in a schoolgirl uniform. "This is the kind of girl that I'm into," he said. I tried to shuffle away, slowly, but again, he was blocking my path. The guy who was outside noticed that I was uncomfortable. He stepped in between us and said, "Dude, she's not even hot. Plus, she's got fake tits." I tried to get away again, but it just didn't work. The manager then said something that makes my skin crawl even to think about. "Yeah, but it's the face, the innocence. Something about taking advantage of someone just does something for me." I would like to say that I noped out of there, quit, and called the owner. Anything that might be a little bit useful. But I didn't. I finished my shift. Listened to the dude talk about all the sex that he has had when he was my age, and how I shouldn't stay with just one person for too long. I need to mix it up a bit, or else I'll get bored. On my way home, I almost cried. I felt so disgusted. I went in the next day hoping to speak with a different manager about him, but he was the only one there. I uncomfortably worked my shift while trying to avoid him as much as possible. Eventually, he managed to corner me again, this time asking me about the ring on my thumb and my boyfriend. Somehow the conversation topic changed to the future, and if I planned on getting married. Obviously, I said yes to try to deter him, but he pressed on. I told him maybe I'll end up with a woman. You never know. He then began to flip out again. He said, "Don't ever end up being a lesbian. That's horrible. At least be bisexual. That way guys can have a little bit of fun too. Don't be selfish." I rolled my eyes and walked away. Later on, the other workers went on break, but I was alone with the creep, and I started cleaning so that when 11 came, I'd go home even faster. He tried to have a conversation with me about what fun I thought was okay at my age. I quickly told him about how I was waiting until marriage, because I have too much to focus on right now with my college and stuff. He said, "Come on, a little fun isn't too bad. You just need to feel pleasure, then you'll understand." I was too scared to do anything, so I just went into the ladies' room and felt really uncomfortable. That night, my mom was picking me up. It was 11:30 at night, and I was waiting outside of the store for her so that I could just leave. I was waiting outside for like 2 minutes when the manager comes outside. "Come wait inside, little pretty girl, like you should, not be standing outside here alone." I told him that I lived right down the street, and my mom would be here in just a moment. He said that I could always drive you home. I'll never let a woman walk home. It's against my morale. I then took my phone out to call my mom to come ASAP. Her contact photo came up. It was a picture of us at graduation. The manager says, "Is that your mom? She's really cute, but I still think that you're cuter." I called my mom, and of course she didn't answer me. "Are you nervous? Come here, give me a hug. I'm sure she'll be here in just a moment." I never ran so fast in my fucking life. I sprinted out the door away from him right as my mom showed up. Fast forward to last week. I was working till close alone with him. I texted my boyfriend about how uncomfortable I was. He came to the store and waited in the parking lot for me, when suddenly the creepy manager gets a text from the main manager cursing him off for not doing his count. He freaks out, throws a tantrum like a little child, yelling, kicking stuff the whole 9 yards. I keep cleaning my stuff, not wanting to get involved with anything. He went into the freezer at around 11. I did all of the dishes and mopped until 11:40. He finally comes out of the freezer crying. I said, "Fuck this. I'm done for the night." Clocked out. My boyfriend was waiting outside still, so I walked over to his car, kissed him, and then suddenly I look up. The manager was staring at us. My boyfriend drove me to my car and urged me to quit. I did the next day. So after my best friend started a few days ago, and he did the same, and some things worse to her, I decided enough was enough. We called the other franchise of this place that's in town, and they gave me the number of HR. I called, and the district manager is interviewing me on Thursday. Apparently my other manager told me that everyone knows that he does this stuff, and no one does anything about it. Hopefully I can convince them to do something, because this really isn't fair to anyone. I'm 24 and male, and not the target of the creepy. I work the night shift at a customer service agent for a major airline in the U.S. My job is basically to wait at the inbound planes to land, drive the bridge up to the lane, wait for everyone to get off, then pull the bridge back to the ground crew, so that they can park the plane wherever it needs to be. It's pretty easy. You do get a lot of creepiness working at night sometimes. Before the incident, I was hanging out with a coworker and one of the contractors who works with us at the food court area. We noticed that there's a guy who is just kind of wandering aimlessly around, but we don't pay any attention because people who are overnighting and can't sleep tend to just kind of walk around the airport. The guy in question is a larger guy, both big and tall, with a medium-sized neck beard and a long, greasy ponytail. Fast forward about an hour. It's close to 1 a.m. I'm doing my work, getting people off one of the late inbounds, making sure that nobody tries to get back onto the plane, giving people directions, things like that. All of a sudden, the guy who was walking around earlier walks up to me and just stands there. I ask him if he needs any help, and he asks, "Do you know if a female worker who gets off several hours ago is here?" I tell him no, she is gone. It's a shame. I really wanted to talk to her again. She was the most beautiful girl that I've ever seen in my entire life. I was starting to feel a little uncomfortable with this guy. "Do you know when she is working again?" "No." "Do you happen to have her phone number or anything like that? I'd really like to talk to her before I left for Florida. I felt like that we really have a connection." "No, I'm sorry, I don't." "Come on, man, help me out. You don't believe in love at first sight?" "No, I don't." The said contractor who I was hanging out with walks up. He's larger and more intimidating than I am. The guy starts to ease up and ends the conversation after he arrives. I didn't tell him my female coworker about this until later. Originally, she thought I was talking about another guy that she was talking with until I described the guy in question. I asked her if he was bothering her at all because obviously he knew her name. She told me that when she was working, the guy came up to her, stared at her and smiled, then shook her hand saying, "I'll see you later." The encounter that I had with the creepy guy creeped her out even more. I told my other coworkers to contact the police if they see him hanging around the airport waiting for her. I normally have thick skin and can brush most things off, but this guy made me really uncomfortable from the moment that he came up to me. I have no idea if he had bad intentions or was just socially awkward, but I did not want to find out at all. I'm on educational leave while at college, but outside of college, I work at a certain popular supermarket with a bullseye as its logo. It's fine to get extra cash, but the longer hours kill me. A couple of times I've met some pretty disgusting people. One was an older man, maybe in his 40s or 50s. He came into my lane one day with a woman who might have been his daughter, since they seemed maybe in her late 20s. He began hitting on me immediately, talking about, "What are you doing after this? And so your name sounds pretty." He kept insisting that I let him take me out for a free lunch during my break. And when his supposed daughter made a comment about him not being the sexy man that he thinks he is, and much of an old man that he is, he waves her off, asks me how old my dad is to try and prove that he's still young. I was uncomfortable, mostly just mumbled answers as I rang up things. Thankfully, I never dealt with him afterwards. However, a few weeks after that, while I was on break, a bunch of other female cashiers talking about an older guy who was hitting on them, giving them his phone number and things. I chimed in about this encounter, and one of the girls explained that he gave her sort of a business card. So she looks him up, and he was apparently a registered sex offender. Number 2, the stereotypical neckbeard guy came into my lane one day. I rang up all of his stuff while looking at his shirt, thinking that it was cool. It was faded, and seemed to be from some anime con or something like that. I'm kind of a nerd, so I thought it was interesting looking back. I kind of assumed that he must have thought I was flirting, because between looking at his shirt and ringing things up, I would feel his eyes on me and smile politely like a cashier should. Suddenly he told me, "Oh, I forgot something. I'll be right back." He hurried off. I rang up the rest of his things and set it aside, suspending his checkout so that I can continue ringing up other customers. About 30 minutes later, he came back, smiling at me. He had a really disturbing smile that kind of reminds me of people who lick their lips too much, making it kind of splotchy red, and set down on the belt 2 things, hand sanitizer and lube. I was incredibly disturbed. What else could that insinuate? When the other things he bought were just normal foods, and considering how much he kept smiling freakishly at me, I have a feeling that he was insinuating exactly what I thought he was. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.